Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Photo Talk Plus, Episode 6, with our special guest, Alan Shapiro. I'm here with my co-host, Lotus Carroll, and a number of fun panelists tonight, and we have a great show. We've got lots of news to cover, tons of news to cover tonight. We've got a number of stories. New Lightroom 4 is out this week, so we want to talk about that and lots of other things. So with that, why don't I turn it over to Lotus. Lotus, you want to introduce our panelists and our special guest tonight?
Yes, I do. I'm going to start with our special guest, and when I introduce you guys, tell people where they can find you and anything that you've got going on that you want to talk about really quickly. So our special guest is Alan Shapiro.
Woo!
All right, Alan.
Well, you can find me here because I've totally given up on Facebook, Flickr, and, you know, I'm on Twitter maybe once a month, so this is where you find me.
Google Plus.
Exclusively. Rock on. I'd plus one that.
Yeah.
We'll all plus one that before the night is through.
Yes.
Okay, our wonderful panelists, starting with Chrysta Ray.
Hello. Amateur photographer. You can find me on beyourselfstudios.com or most well known probably for Scavenger Hunt on Google+.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, she is well known for that.
And rice cakes.
And rice cakes, yeah.
Don't forget the rice cakes.
And rice cakes. Okay, we have from Google, Dave Cohen.
Hey everybody. Yeah, so I work at Google. I'm on the Google Plus Photos team. So kind of intricately familiar with the product, and that's where you'll find me too.
And I see somebody in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, Dave. Who is that?
That's my dog. That's Sparky. So he has his own Plus page. You can find him, Sparky the dog.
Did you see his head perk up there?
Yeah.
Did you see his head perk up there when you said Sparky?
Hi, Sparky.
He's staring at the screen.
Is he verified?
No,
Okay.
He's not verified. Just look into that.
So we've got David Sparky, and then we also have Jeffrey Sullivan.
Hello, everyone. I'm a professional landscape photographer. You can find me on my blog at myphotoguides.com. And my biggest project right now is working on a guide to California landscape photography locations. It's going to be published by Laurent Martres, who is the author and the publisher of the popular Photographing the Southwest series.
Cool.
Very cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right, sweet.
Wonderful. And, of course, you're very involved on Google Plus as well, Jeff.
Maybe too much.
Oh, there's no such thing.
That's true. Whenever I can get the bandwidth, and last week or so I've been in Death Valley, so you know how rare that is, Thomas.
Yeah, oh, I love Death Valley.
Oh yeah,
So.
tough to get an internet connection there, but when I can get a connection, I'm on. So love the place. Google
Well,
Plus.
we're glad you were able to get on tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting
Yeah,
me.
and Jeff was on our Google Plus photo walk in Death Valley, along with Dave and a number of other people. That was a great trip.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
It was my first time there. It was great. We kind of got the tour from Luke. And saw
The
really
mayor
cool
of
places.
Baby.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we also have Keith Barrett with us, helping us out.
Thanks, guys. Yep, I'm Keith Barrett from VidcastNetwork.com and streaming this live on that network as well with the chat room.
Thank you so much, Keith.
Okay. Well, we're going to try to go fast tonight because we have a lot of stories to cover. The first story we're going to look at here tonight comes to us from Jeremy Coward. You all know Jeremy, right? He posted, this thing got over 2,000 plus ones, if you'll believe that. I don't think I've ever had anything with 2,000 plus ones. Is anybody here?
Mm.
No? I mean,
I think you have, Thomas.
Trey probably does, 2 or 3 times a week, but no. Anyways, Jeremy posted a link. Basically, it was a short post. This is where it's headed, kids. Holy crap. And he had a video of this unbelievable new camera at CES 2001 WVIL unbelievable new camera. 31 megapixels. It looks like you. What do you guys think of this camera? Did you guys take a look at it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll take a Leica S2, sorry.
What's that?
I'd rather a Leica S2, but that's just me.
Well, that was the camera that had the removable lens, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting at the end of that? You saw like the camera was actually a cell phone too. Like it rang and the guy picked it up. And so I don't know, it's interesting. I was kind of wondering like what it's built on. If it's built off the Android platform or if they're using something else. But it looks interesting. It's kind of like a brand new kind of cell phone.
I guess that's kind of the dream for everybody, isn't it? To have a cell phone that's just as good as a DSLR, and all you got to do is bring around some lenses and just set them right up.
Well, that one's better than mine. 31 megapixels is amazing.
Take calls on your DSLR.
Yes. It's twice as good as the one I use.
Yeah, you run out of space twice as fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's people seem to like it. I don't know. Is this out yet? Can you buy this thing? Is it real? I mean, when are we gonna...
Is it real? It's a big spoof.
Well, you never know. I mean, I don't know. It looks like very impressive technology. Trey was talking about the new cameras, mirrorless cameras, last week, and that got a lot of attention. And are people just tired of DSLRs?
Oh, I hope not. Come
I'm
on.
not tired of DSLRs, but don't we all look for something more sleek over time, The next best thing?
It's another thing to throw in the bag. It's another option.
Yeah, I don't know. I like my DSLR. I like that form factor. I like the shape. I don't care that it's big. It feels good to me. I don't know. Personally, I'd rather shoot a DSLR than this WVIL camera, but if it's a better camera, it's a better camera. I do take cell phone shots with the new Nexus, which I love.
Yeah, it was interesting too.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just saying, like they took the lens off and it worked wirelessly as well. I kind of wonder, if they're actually just streaming all that data, if there's any compression going on or whatnot. Because that's a big file, right?
That's a huge, 31 megapixel?
Yeah.
Huge.
So it'd be interesting to see the quality compared to like a DSLR.
Yeah.
Take spying on people to a next level.
That's true. Could you imagine putting like a 400 millimeter lens up against that thing, one of those big long puppies? Against a little cell phone? Well, anyways, that story was quite popular, and maybe that's the future, maybe it's not. I don't know, but it's certainly I think people are itching for better and better and better cell phone photos, and to take a lens and have a cell phone and just set your lens right up on it and shoot. It seems a little futuristic, but maybe that's where things are headed. So, we had a couple more stories we're going to talk about. Story number 2. Actually, what we're going to talk about first, before we talk about that story, was Lotus and I had a little trip this week, right, Lotus?
Yes.
Yes, we shot the North American
International
Auto Show. It's a mouthful for Ford, and we had a great time. I don't know what did you think of the event, Lotus?
I thought it was really shiny. I liked all the new cars, all the reflections.
There were a lot of new cars.
The showroom was so beautiful.
I know it. Now, have you processed many pictures yet, Lotus?
No, I haven't had time. I've started going through and rating them so that I can get them all together to process them, but I haven't really started getting into the processing deeply yet. I'm not that fast.
Oh, well, geez, Lotus, because I've already got 100 up online.
Yeah, I know. I know.
That record thing you got to set there, Tom.
That's called rubbing it in.
Well, sometimes. I'll throw up a few of my pictures just to show you kind of what we shot there. Let's see if I can get to that. Screen share. There we go. Hopefully this will work.
Bam.
Did it work? It did work.
Yeah.
Good. So, this was, I've never shot this event before, but Oops, now I got a little hourglass. I probably shouldn't have hit screen share twice. Here we go. Cancel. Hopefully this is going to work.
Hey, what website is
How
that?
shiny they are. Oh, what happened?
What
Drop it on my
website's that?
site. Uh-oh.
This is one of those little websites that we don't like to talk about so much. But we got to hang out with Alan Mulally, who is the CEO of Ford. They took us to the Henry Ford Museum. They took us to the Henry Ford World Headquarters. I processed all of these photos with the new Lightroom 4, which I like and which we're going to talk about on the show as well. Porsche had some nice designs. There's Lotus with the little hamster. Little separated at birth shot.
Right. What are you trying to say about my teeth?
Lots of cars and lots of concept cars. I guess these cars park themselves these days, and they all have Pandora and satellite radio and all this stuff. I haven't bought in a car in years, but I don't know. I guess if we buy new cars, I guess we got to buy Fords, right, Lotus?
Yes, absolutely. Get the hybrid there.
But I had a great time. Another thing that was fun that we got to do is we got to shoot the Rouge River factory, which I don't have pictures of. But
oh, you haven't processed all those too?
No, I'm getting to that though.
You'll see those in a decade or so, probably.
Yeah, eventually.
They'll be up in the
What did you think? What did you think of of those, Lotus, of the Rouge River factory?
That was crazy, amazing to go in there and see them building those trucks. I had this totally Sesame Street moment where when you were a kid and you would watch Sesame Street and it was like, this is how we build this. And they go into the factory and show you. I felt like a little kid in there watching all these big machine parts go by and watching people put things together. It was really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So now I can't get my screen share back for some reason. I can't get off screen share. Oh well.
That's okay. We don't need to look at you.
I know.
Grab your profile photo instead.
Let me try.
Let's interrupt this show for a little hemorrhoid medicine commercial.
Oh, no.
Well, you know what we can do is interesting.
We have a sponsor break? Come on.
Yes. Well, let's talk about our sponsor, one of our sponsors. Good point, Alan. Which is SmugMug.
I'm an advertising guy. Gotta.
That's right. SmugMug is one of our sponsors for the show, and
there you are.
No, I'm back. SmugMug. They have a plugin for Lightroom 3. This is a good break because we'll talk about SmugMug and then we'll talk about Lightroom 4. And they are working right now. They wanted everybody to know that they are working on a new plugin for Lightroom 4 beta, just out, to get that out as quickly as possible. They are one of the, I guess, official partners for Lightroom 3. So they've got that right now. So anybody using Lightroom 3 can use SmugMug.
Yeah,
and
you can get the photos straight to your account from there.
They're also doing a lot of new work optimizing SmugMug for search, so that more of your stuff comes up when people are searching for photos to buy, and we all want to sell photos, right? I think so. Some of us do.
Yeah.
At least we have one professional photographer here tonight, Jeffrey Sullivan. I know he wants to sell photos. So we all like to sell photos, and so SmugMug, they're doing some stuff with optimization as well. So they're chugging along, and they're keeping up with technology and Lightroom and all that. So we're happy to have them sponsoring the show, as usual. And with that, why don't we go into Lightroom 4 a little bit? Who's played with Lightroom 4?
Oh, definitely. Here we go.
Alan. Okay.
Loving it. Totally loving it. Huge leap over Lightroom 3. Huge leap. I mean, they simplified it. The develop module is more intuitive. You know, all the bad stuff that I didn't like about Lightroom 3 is gone, and then they added that book module, which for me, I mean, I jumped out of my chair and screamed. It was great.
What did that look like?
To jump out of the chair?
The scream and everything. I want to see the whole thing.
Hang on, let me see if I can recreate it.
That's quite an
it was like
endorsement.
it was a subtle, manly, like bacon fuel
okay.
scream. It was like a, yeah.
Oh, okay. I totally envisioned that differently.
Yeah, all right.
More like, ah! No?
So I'm trying to do a screen share, but it's not showing all the new modules on the side, all the new tools and stuff of Lightroom 4.
Well, it didn't used to do either. That's always been an issue when you screen share Lightroom, right? You can't see all the tools and stuff, right?
Is that right? Unless Jarvie's doing it.
Indeed. No, Jarvie showed us how, like, the brushes looked really weird and all kinds of stuff, too, didn't he?
Yeah, they did. Well, I don't know. I like it a lot. I've been playing around with it since it came out. I had a copy, I guess a week or so before it came out from Adobe. We were under embargo, so we couldn't talk about it with it for a while. The only, there's a couple things, though. One thing that I'm not crazy about, although I think I'll grow to like it, it's one of those things, like with on the Apple Mac with Lion, the two-finger scroll goes the wrong way. Not the old way. They got rid of the fill light slider, and instead they have like blacks and whites and highlights and shadows. And I'm just used to sort of blacks and fill lights and playing around with those two sliders. So now I got to break it up into 4 sliders, the same functionality. So that was a little difficult for me. I do like that they have noise reduction, spot noise reduction.
That's my favorite new feature.
Yeah.
And the spot color correction, the brightness and the temperature controls.
Yeah.
I've been wanting that stuff so badly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Over and over again when I've been editing, just thinking, oh, if I could just do this.
Right.
What's interesting, and I don't know if this is just the beta or not, but it can't convert Lightroom 3 catalogs. It can't import those into Lightroom 4.
Yeah.
I think they said in like one of the video tutorials, I think they said that was on purpose, because they didn't want to do any kind of file conversion yet because they weren't sure if they had the final formats.
You think they'll have that in the final product, Dave?
I would have to assume so.
They got it, right? I mean, all these people are going to upgrade. They have to be able to move their catalogs into it.
Yeah, they just said they were doing that because it's a beta version and they didn't want people to, just get reliant on it without having to buy it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah. It is nice that it's free. That's a pretty cool thing. That's kind of a marketing gimmick, isn't it?
Yeah, they kind of want people to try it out, too.
Yeah.
Get a lot of good press, and then once they release it.
It's kind of like we'll get you addicted to the cigarettes, and then we'll start charging you for them.
There you go. That's my people for you.
Yeah. I do like it.
They usually give you a discount on the purchase if you put up with the beta and any of the bugs and so forth. So it's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good all around for the community, I think, to get in early and test it out and give their ideas and improve the product, too. So
I don't know if you guys saw, I forget who it was in the stream, but somebody posted a comparison of the clarity between Lightroom 3 and Lightroom 4.
I saw Peter Sy.
I think so, yeah.
Peter Sy that did that, yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing, actually. It was kind of night and day between the two of them.
Totally was. I was impressed with that.
He thought Lightroom 4 was a lot better?
Yeah, you have a lot more detail.
Yeah.
Where it kind of smoothed out the edges, I think, last time. In Lightroom 3 and Lightroom 4, it was much crisper.
Yeah, less artifacting and.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I use 95% of my processing I do in Lightroom, so I've already kind of moved on to it 100%, even in the raw beta form. I've never used the Lightroom 3 or Lightroom in general for my catalog. In a way to organize my photos or anything, because I just have too many photos. So I just use it as a processing tool. But I'm completely converted over at this point. I won't go back.
Yeah, I'm with you, Thomas. Totally.
Yeah.
I can't do it yet until I can actually move my catalog in. I can't really feel at home inside there.
Yeah. And I guess there's bound to be bugs and problems and functionality and plugins that don't work and all that, but I think it's worth it for the raw process, for the basic processing functionality. I'm 100% behind it.
Cool.
Also, for a lot of the people who are getting into video, I mean, it doesn't sound like there's a lot in this group, but the video processing in Lightroom now, big leap forward.
That's pretty cool. And Alan, you were doing stuff with books in there, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, like I said earlier, I got 3 books laid out today. It just like flawlessly, instantly. It was great. I mean, for people who know Blurb and that whole software kit and that company, this is just that much easier because you're not going back and forth.
Well, I do like it. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad that Adobe keeps pushing the envelope and bringing us better and better products. I mean, that's the future. So I'm excited about it, and you can get it, I guess, where? At AdobeLabs.com or Labs, Adobe, whatever their lab site.
Labs.adobe.com, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's out there, so check it out. And now another story this week that was popular. We had 2 photography-related stories that got over 1,000+ ones this week. There was Jeremy's story about the camera, and then there was another story by Leodore Salinier. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Salinier, is that right? About the photography of Kim Kiever. And let me paste a link to this in the chat room. There we go, chat room. I don't know. Did you guys see this photography? Do you understand how that works, or?
It's amazing.
Looks pretty amazing.
I was blown away. I mean, I thought it was quite good, quite elaborate. These are scenes apparently that Kim Kiever puts together in a fish tank.
In a fish tank, yeah.
Huh. That's cool.
Literally in a fish tank, and these elaborate sort of productions, and apparently they use pigments and coloring, and shoots these very surrealistic, sort of futuristic, science fiction-y landscapes, is what they look like to me. Okay,
It'd be cool if she had a goldfish that had like a little dragon costume on it. She could let it through there.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit. There's a photographer by the name of Gregory Crewdson, who, not that he does this sort of stuff, but who sets up these really elaborate productions. And
is he the food guy?
No, he does these sort of weird scenes, like out on a wet street with a car turned over and stuff like that. And Lotus is sharing some of these images right now, but they're very produced. I mean, they're very purposefully produced, staged productions. And this reminded me a little bit of that, but sort of on a miniature level. I mean, I'm curious, Jeff, as a landscape photographer, what do you think of this?
I was blown away. I looked at them, and they were so surreal. And at first, I couldn't really place what they were. Then I read the description, and it was even more amazing. I mean, some of these where there's a river going through, and it just totally fakes you out in terms of glancing at it, and then you realize that it's not really a landscape. And there's obviously something really different about it when you first see it, but you can't place it. And then when you figure out what it is, kind of an epiphany. It's like, wow, that takes an amazing amount of work.
It does. I mean, as a landscape photographer, I don't know how. I mean, you can't really set up shots. Like, you can't stage shots as a you can go to where the sun is, right? And you can go to where the scene is, but you can't set up a shot like this as a traditional landscape photographer.
You can certainly anticipate. I do a lot. I use the photographer's ephemeris a lot to position the sun and the moon and the stars and so forth. But with this, you could move your sun instantaneously.
Yeah.
And put in some fog and put in some clouds, and it would be an interesting medium to work in.
Some of them reminded me, they almost look otherworldly, don't they? They look like on another planet or something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Makes me think of sci-fi stuff, too.
And they also reminded me a lot of paintings, They seem very painterly. Very, with the colors and all of that.
Well, those clouds, I wonder if they're backdrops or if they're dyes put into the water.
It sounds like, from the description, what I read, it sounded like they were pigments that they dropped into the water, and apparently they've got to do it very, very quickly.
Right.
They don't have a lot of time. Kind of set up the shot and get it in there and take it. So, I just love it. Human creativity knows no limits, and I love it when artists can use the camera in such a way that they create almost paintings. I think we lost Keith there again.
Again.
He seems to be bouncing in and out.
He's shifty.
Well,
Got a hot date somewhere.
He's back.
She dumped him.
You can record this.
Well, I was pretty impressed with those photos, and you know who else I'm impressed with, Lotus?
Who?
Drobo.
Who could that be?
Drobo.
Woohoo!
Who's our other sponsor for our show tonight, Drobo, who, if you need a place to back up your photos, I say this every week, I've got 5 of them. I don't know if I'm going to have to buy 6. I hope they come out with a Thunderbolt Drobo, but my 5th one is starting. I've got a lot of blue lights on the bottom. I've got about 8 terabytes in it, but it's almost full. So Drobos are a great way to back up your photos. It's not a question of if the hard drive will fail, it's when. And a Drobo helps protect against hard drive failure. It fails, you pop it out, pop a new one in. It heals itself, and it's good as new.
Are those guys, are they USB, or do you plug them into your network?
Well, they have a network Drobo. I'm using a FireWire 800 Drobo right now, which for my MacBook Pro, which is reasonably fast. I think everybody's scrambling for Thunderbolt. I think that's probably the next thing. So Drobo hasn't officially announced anything about that or anything, but I got to believe stuff like that's in the pipeline. But yeah, they also have a network Drobo as well, and you can put it on a network, and that works. And so there's that too. So anyways, we do like Drobo, and they are our show sponsor. So check them out, and if you're not backing up your photos right now, you should be, and that's a great way to do it. So, and that brings us to our last story of the night before we get into a wonderful interview with Alan. And that is a very popular post. This post plus 788 plus ones. What is it with these posts are going huge, aren't they? 1,000, 2,000, 700. I mean, I don't know. Are people actually? Either these are really, really good posts, or we're getting a lot more people on the network with Google Plus, or maybe a little bit of both. But this was, I thought, a wonderful, wonderful write-up by Mike Shaw. Everybody here knows Mike, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yes.
Called Long Exposure, When, Why, and How. And basically, he had a comparison piece to show this bridge, one which was just a regular exposure, and one which was a very long exposure. I think it was 400 and some seconds. And he talked about how he did it. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I learned about long exposure with that photo deathmatch that I did. That was the first time I ever attempted it. And it's awesome. So I just wish that it wasn't winter and horrible weather in where I lived. And then I could try it more often.
I guess he was talking about this big stopper filter, which you put on your camera, and it basically allows you to keep your shutter open for extremely long periods of time. Yeah, forever.
Forever.
And take these exposures that make the water look like glass and the sky looks like streaks. And Jeff, do you do much of this?
Not as much as I like. The neutral density filter I have is a 3-stop, and then I put on a polarizer, then I shut down to f/22, and then I do everything I can to cut out light. But the big stopper is a 10-stop filter, so it gives you a whole new realm of long exposures. And one of the things I really like to do when I do them, though, is I like to do different lengths of time. And what you find is that you get different textures, especially in water, either flowing water or waves. And it's really cool to then mix them back together, because a super long exposure will give you that glassy look, and then a little bit shorter time frame will give you a little bit more detail, then even in a shorter time frame will give you a lot of detail. And if you mix the three together, I find that you often get really cool textures that are a little more, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but you get a little bit more with mixing different time frames. So
I remember you doing that in Death Valley for some of the night stuff. Like you were taking a couple different exposures, and you got one with the stars, and you got some other ones to get some lights and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, with the light painting, when the guys were doing the steel wool, I would do 3 exposures. I'd do a 4-second at the beginning. I was bracketing 4 seconds when it was brightest, then 8 seconds when it was less bright. And then the last one, when it was just an ember spinning around, would be 15 seconds. And then I'd tell everyone to just sit tight for a second. Then I'd switch it to my dark sky exposure and get the stars and the mountains in the background. And then you blend those all later in post-processing. And so there you could get the sky and the horizon with the mountains. And then you pick which ones of the spinning fire were the best and mix those in, and you can really control what your result is compared to, a lot of the people were just sticking it on ISO 100 and leaving it open 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I find that if you can chop things like that up into different segments, segments both in the event and then different time frames for how much you want to abstract it, you can have more control over what the result is.
Now, Jeff, are you doing that work in Photoshop primarily?
Actually, I find that for most of my processing, I really, really like Lightroom, and I find Photoshop a little bit on since it's designed from the beginning to do single files. When I get into Lightroom, I can edit one file, then I can apply that to a whole bunch of other files. So I find it so much more efficient that I no longer have a copy of Lightroom even installed. If I want to Photoshop. If I want to do something in Photoshop, I have to go to an old machine and call up the old dusty Photoshop.
So you can put these 4 layers of photos in Lightroom? You can do that in Lightroom?
No, actually, I use a free tool called StarStax.
StarStax, okay, yeah.
I use it for my night Star Trails photos. I do, instead of doing like a 20-minute exposure, I'll do 30-second exposures and then put them all together, and the stars move a little bit each time. And by doing that, you can run StarStax in a lighten mode, and it will take the lightest pixels out of all of them and put them all together, so you'll see where the stars went through a trail throughout that whole sequence.
That's cool.
And the nice thing about that is in a 20 or 30-minute or hour-long exposure, you'll inevitably have someone accidentally turn on a headlamp, or the camera will have the red autofocus thing come on, or there's always something where it will ruin your 30 minutes or 6-hour exposure. But by doing it in 30-second increments, you can fix just in that one exposure or leave out the headlight flash or whatever it is, and not lose your whole shoot, not lose the whole shot. And I was able to do that with the shot that I did for the cover of Outdoor Photographer magazine. It was Yosemite Falls with the stars over it, and there were tons of cars driving by, but I ran StarStax in darken mode, and that took the darkest moments from all those shots. So when the cars weren't there, I took that part of the landscape for the road going by, and then for the stars, I used it in lighten mode. And that was one case where I did call up Photoshop so I could merge the two and pick the dark road and the light sky. And,
that's cool.
StarStax, it's called StarStax.
Yeah, StarStax, and it's a free tool. You just point at a bunch of JPEGs, and it will just stack them all and automatically take either the brightest or darkest or average, or it has a whole bunch of different modes you can run it in. Usually I'm running it in lighten mode.
I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have had the times where you try to set up, you set up a 30 or 40-minute shot, and then like you flip it off and you had all your settings wrong, right? And you wasted like 40 minutes.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah.
It sounds nice that you can kind of get your settings right and then just put a whole bunch of photos together.
That's the other big advantage too. There's no guesswork or estimation in terms of what's the exposure going to be for a 40-minute shot. You get your 30-minute shot, it either worked or didn't in 30 seconds. 30 seconds later, you're ready to adjust the exposure. You've got it right in the first minute, and then you go off and shoot dozens of those to put the rest of the shot together.
That's cool.
It's pretty simple.
That's interesting. Star Stacks. Well, the price certainly is right for it. So, I'll have to check that out. And what do you think about this filter? This filter that Mike's using?
I love it. I definitely want to get one. There are some too where it puts two filters together and you rotate them to dial it from anywhere from 3 to 10 stops.
Are they pretty expensive? The Lee Big Stoppers, are those pretty expensive?
I don't think a 10, just a flat 10 would be. The adjustable ones are, and the adjustable ones are so thick that you can't actually use them on wide-angle lenses. So that would be the advantage of the Lee. The Lee system has such big filters that you could use it on an ultra-wide lens.
Nice.
And be able to get that effect.
Huh. Well, I'm going to have to check that out, too. I haven't done a lot of that stuff. Is anybody else here? I mean, I've done long exposures, even 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but usually it's, already very dark outside and I'm at 100 ISO, f22 or something like that. I'm not using filters. Does anybody else use any filters? I love the long black and white stuff, too.
Yeah.
Has anybody else done any of this? No?
Don't have the patience here.
I tend to get lazy and do 30-second exposures because that's as much as the camera will do without having to hook up an extra switch. And I actually chewed out Canon about that in a blog post because there's no reason why they shouldn't let you do a minute or 2 or 5.
Yeah, why not?
It's just totally
the same
arbitrary.
thing.
Does Nikon do that in camera? Do they do longer exposures?
If they do, I'll switch.
Yeah.
Oh!
Just kidding, Canon.
No, you can't switch over that. That's crazy.
I like Jeffrey's tip about doing several because I did
Yeah.
try some of that stuff in Death Valley and I started wanting to just shave people's faces off with my fingernails when they would turn lights on near me.
Isn't that true?
Ricardo's not that bad.
If you know what...
It wasn't Ricardo.
If you can do the basic math for an exposure for 30 seconds, it gets pretty easily then for the people who don't have an f2.8 lens or don't have ISO. In a dark sky, I'll shoot ISO 6400. Maybe on their camera they only want to go to 800. So you just multiply everything out. And Marcus Guerra was with us, and with his lens and with the ISO we wanted to shoot at and so forth, we just did the math and it came out to, instead of 30 seconds, you got to do about 25 minutes. And we just had him, he had a switch, he could lock it open, we just left it there for 25 minutes. Luckily no one turned on their headlamps and it worked like a charm.
Yeah, those switches are pretty cheap.
So you can actually kind of, oh yeah, the regular switch is cheap. I have one that has the intervalometer built in too. So I can say do a shot every 30 seconds or do a 30-second shot and then 1 second later do another 30-second shot. And I'll leave my camera out at night doing Milky Way photos and I'll go to bed for a couple hours and come back and check it.
Oh, I like that.
That's the way to do it. I tell you, I have such little patience for long exposure. I want to do 1 minute, but I am just pulling my hair out after about 2 minutes. I want to fidget with my camera and take more pictures. I think I need it.
You can do too. You can leave one on your intervalometer and it's shooting itself. Then you can go play with the other one on more interactive shots.
Well, that's what I need to do. I need to do it with two. That's exactly what I need to do, Jeff. I need to take 2 cameras and 2 bodies out and do that with one, and then. But like I say, I particularly love a lot of the black and white stuff that I've seen where people do those long exposures. They're so
I need to do more of that.
Yeah, there's some great ones where they can blend water into the sky and it kind of looks like stuff just floating in space.
Oh, so artistic and beautiful. Well, I am going to check out this Lee Big Stopper filter. I don't know about you guys, but I want to play around more with that. So that's I appreciated Mike's post. I thought that was a terrific post, and his photos where he really showed a comparison. That was a really nice how-to post. You know what I mean?
Mike makes really thoughtful posts. He has great content on his stream.
He does. He's a wonderful. We got to get him on the show too, Lotus. He does
I
a
know.
wonderful job. So.
Yeah, his photos are amazing too. He's one of my favorite photographers that I follow.
Quite good. Quite good. Well, with that, those are the main stories we wanted to talk about tonight. We had a lot going on, and with that, we now get to the part of the show where we get to talk to our very special guest, Alan Shapiro.
Hello, Alan.
Welcome.
Thank you. How y'all doing?
Great. Well, Alan, I have to start out by saying, I love all your photographs, but you do amazing portraits.
Thank you. Thanks. It's important to me. It's one of those things where I just like meeting people and talking to them and finding out their stories. Right? So.
Well, I'm going to start with the first question. How in the world do you process those? Because they look. I mean,
that is the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, that is without what is it? Trey Ratcliffe says, opening up the kimono too much.
Yeah.
I don't mind
Alan
opening up.
already said he would take all his clothes off, so.
Yeah, he's getting naked tonight. So.
We already discussed this.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some of those, Alan, and I'm blown away. I mean, the detail, the contrast, the light. I mean, and I know you're doing. Obviously, there's some light there to start with, but you're doing some stuff in processing that blows me away.
Thank you. It's sort of my version of HDR, I would say, and I don't mind giving away secrets. In fact, I'm going to do some hangouts where I'm going to show people what I do.
Nice.
I will tell you that about 90% of them are shot on black. I don't believe in a lot of like Photoshop work to darken them. I will either hang black velvet or I will take people into a dark corner and just work it. In fact, it's not unusual for me to just go out with what I call the confessional and just set up a big enclosure and invite people in.
Okay.
Again, my style of photography is kind of slow motion. I like talking to people. So I won't even raise my camera until I've gotten a little bit of conversation going with them and know where to like lead them and what sort of stories they want to tell us.
Now, so do you actually have sort of a black velvet background that you carry around with you?
Yeah, I joke that there are fewer black velvet paintings of Elvis and matadors because I sort of have so much of it.
And so you just is this something you keep in your car? Do you just keep it on you when you're out on? I mean, are these actual really sort of planned, formal portraits?
Most of them are people who I find and invite to my studio, or some of them are on the street. The woman you're looking at now, the Chinese woman.
I'm sharing here.
Right, that was a street portrait that's on whoever's looking down there in the corner.
Yeah.
But it was shot in such a dark area. I literally invited her over and said, would you mind spending some time with me?
And just positioned her in a very dark area with a dark background.
Yeah. And then, there's a lot of lighting involved, or not so much. I mean, it depends on the natural light, but I'll work with either some off-camera strobe and on-camera strobe, a lot of reflectors as well. And, I joke with people, you don't need expensive gear. I'll go out with literally flashlights or, matches, and I'll use whatever I can. Aluminum foil, and just position it.
One of the things that strikes me a lot of the time in your photos is the eyes.
Well,
what do you do? What do you do there? How do you do that, Alan?
Well, that's a little bit of careful lighting and a little bit of very careful processing. I'm a Lightroom fan, and I do want to give a plug to like Nick, what is it? Nick Effects, whatever the black and white one is.
Silver FX.
Silver FX. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
But I'm a Lightroom guy, so it's just a lot of playing there, and that's it.
So you are these portraits we're looking at. You're largely doing these in Lightroom.
Yeah, every single one of them is done in Lightroom. There is very little Photoshop in any of these black and white portraits.
Wow.
No. In fact, I'd say next to nothing, unless there's something, some blemish that I want to clone out. Where, Lightroom's retouching tools are not very good. We all know that, and that's something they should work on.
Yeah.
But these are all Lightroom. And what I will do is, multiple exposures and just then combine them in perfect layers in Lightroom, which is an on-one software. So, Brian, yay, thanks.
Yeah. So you're putting your layers together in on one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with these portraits that you're getting of the individuals, what controls are you using the most, do you think, in Lightroom?
Definitely a lot of clarity. And the black and white conversion in Lightroom is very important. I mean, these are all full color portraits because that's how I shoot, and I always want the option of working in full color. I just am going through a black and white phase, so making them as flawless as they can be is important. But then it's about just pushing the contrast, taking the blacks to a richer place. I spend a lot of time in curves, playing around and experimenting.
Right.
And that's another of the nice things. Go ahead.
How much time do you spend on an image, do you think?
I'd say no more than an hour. At this point, I'm comfortable enough in where I want to take it, where I know. But I'm not a big preset guy. I don't have formulas per se. I hope it's not that formulaic when you look at the body of work, because I like taking each one to a very different place. And for me, it's really about pulling out the expression and, telling that story.
Well, I think you're doing two things. You're pulling out the expression, but you're also doing wonderful things. And I don't even think that this is so much in Lightroom, but you're doing wonderful things with light, with actual light.
Yeah.
The light on the faces, the light on the portraits is wonderful. And now, are you using speed lights? I mean, how are you?
Yeah, I'm a Canon shooter. I've got I normally work with 2 speed lights and then a bunch of reflectors.
Okay.
And that's it. I've got all sorts of snoots and Gary Fong diffusion filters and little portable soft boxes that I can put on my speed lights depending on the light and the skin complexion of the person I'm shooting. So.
Do you like those Gary Fongs?
I love the Gary Fong tools. I really do.
Yeah, they're very popular.
Mm-hmm. And also, I use a lot of Rogue flash benders, so if you don't know what those are, I think I may... What happened?
I found the Gary Fong's actually on Google Plus the other day, but he's not very active.
Yeah. I don't have a flash bender close by, but those are some of the things. Have you seen them? They're just like a big white card with metal, so you can bend them and shape them and turn them into snoots.
I have seen those. Yeah, those are great. Those are great.
Tell us about this photo.
That could be my favorite photo of all time. That's one of the things that got me started, I'll call myself a semi-professional. That is my grandmother. She is 99 years old. We spoke to her just the other day. My kids and I Skype with her, and I was out. She lives in California, so we were out visiting her, and I had shot easily, 1,000 shots of her, and she was getting pretty annoyed. And so the kids lean over and tell my grandmother, who they call Bubby, to start making faces at me. Maybe I'll stop. Stick out your tongue. And then my daughter leaned over and said, "Give him the finger, Bubby." And she didn't know what that meant. So the first thing she did was stick up her pointer finger. And then, again, she whispered in her ear, no, stick up the middle finger. So she did it. And the kids are hysterical.
Right, of course.
And she has no idea what it means. So they're cracking up and, why are you laughing at me? And so she told them. And she said, "Now, why would I do that to your father? He's my grandson." And their response was, "Well, people do it to him in New York all the time."
Well, I see you're a very good driver in New York, Alan.
It's not the driving; it's the big lens and in people's faces.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So one of the things I love about some of those portraits you do, especially like the black and white ones, they have like a really nice kind of grungy quality to them. You have like a lot of lot of detail kind of in the face and the lines and the hair. I'm curious, like, do these people, do they get to see these photos later? Have you ever heard from somebody who's
No, absolutely.
thrilled with them, or?
Yeah, I don't know if you, I spend a lot of time writing about the people that I photograph, so for those people who have followed some of my posts, I like telling their stories, and I like talking about those powerful moments that these people have gone through and conjure up for me. So it's important that I share the work with them. So they all have seen it. They all get copies. I'm very quick to say, give me your email address, and I'll send you something. And if you want more, just let me know. I mean, it's sort of the privilege of shooting them, and it's the least I can do is send them prints and let them share it with
them. Do they tend to be happy with them?
The women, I'll invariably send a different take. I'll send them the smoother version. I'll send them the more glamorous version.
That's smart.
But yeah, I've never had anyone look at them and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that to me." So.
What did you do to my face?
Right.
Alan, do you prefer color or black and white?
Oh God, that's a tough question. I mean, I feel like I'm going through a couple of different phases. I mean, I love playing with color, and by the way, I happen to be colorblind. So it's interesting. If you know some of the more colorful work that I do, I've been working on a book about, tripping in the garden on Miracle Grow is what it's called, shameless plug, coming out hopefully in a month.
Right. That's
that's the other extreme for me. So it just gives me, it's like room to roam. It's playing different kinds of music is how I see it. So.
And you do all your color stuff in Lightroom too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
Well, these fine feathered friends are very, very colorful.
Oh,
Turkeys.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like you're using like some textures and stuff. What's this all about?
That's a newer project. It actually started for the Ritz-Carlton hotels, who were putting in a sky lounge concept restaurant and bar at the top of all their tall hotels. And I had a friend who said, give me some images. What do you think? And so for me, because they were way high up, I was on like the 43rd floor of the Ritz-Carlton. I thought of birds after I thought of like giant King Kong faces looking in the window. But so we settled on birds, and I love playing in Photoshop. And so again, this is like a whole other side where I can play with textures that I've found and shot and layer them and sort of create these Renaissance Baroque, bird portraits. So it's fun. It's almost like creative therapy for me.
So these you are doing in Photoshop?
Those are all done in Photoshop. I mean, the birds are processed in Lightroom, but then right into Photoshop, and like that one you're looking at, that dove image that's maybe up on someone's screen somewhere.
On Lotus is sharing.
That is at present, and it's not done. It's about 102 layers of different textures.
Wow.
And before I flattened it so that I could get to the next layer, it was like 4 gigabytes. But they're being blown up to like 4 feet wide by 7 feet tall. So
wow.
These are Mondo files.
Now, how are they printing those?
That's a really good question. I think they're going to one of the New York labs, and they're gonna blow them up on. I think they were talking about aluminum. Just because they wanted the reflective nature of the substrate.
Yeah. And have you seen any of these prints yet? Have you seen any of these prints?
We've been doing a few test prints, and they're looking amazing. But I haven't seen any full size. I mean, I've got 25 of these to finish, so I've been busy. And there's a part of me that doesn't wanna like see it until it's all done and up and installed. So.
Right. And so how many different Ritz-Carltons are they going to put these in?
I have no idea. As many as they want.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, right.
What kind of textures are you using? You said you're layering a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, well, I wherever I go, I have my camera, and I'll shoot textures, be it cement or sidewalks, and we've got this amazing central train station area called Grand Central Station in New York that's all filled with subterranean tunnels, and the textures there are just unbelievable. Of
I've
course,
heard of that place.
Huh?
I've heard of that place, Grand Central Terminal.
Yeah. And unfortunately, because of all the terrorist activity, and whenever they see someone with a camera, all the police come and swarm me. I mean, I've been pulled into side rooms numerous times, only to show them that I'm shooting walls and textures and cracks and things. So they still don't.
So that's
believe
really
me.
cool that that you're making all your own textures. Then that's nice.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the. It's part of the process. It's part of the therapy.
Yeah.
And at this point, I've got thousands of different textures. So it's just fun.
And where are you shooting the birds, Alan? Where are you getting the birds?
The birds, wherever, either in the wild if I'm traveling, or even zoos. I mean, I've been a lifetime member of the Bronx Zoo and the Smithsonian down in Washington. So I'll take frequent trips out to San Diego and just beg the keepers to let me in behind the scenes, or just be patient and sit in the birdhouses and the aviaries till they smile at me. At this point, the Bronx Zoo is New York's major zoo, and they know me and they let me in, and I get sort of special treatment, and I think the birds even recognize me.
Do you know any good bird calls or anything?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Alan, you've seen probably Gary Winogrand's photographs of the Bronx Zoo?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those are lovely.
Yeah, I've yet to run into him. I keep waiting to, so we could just hang out. But
well, good luck, because he's dead. So. But that's I know.
I didn't know that. I'm
Yeah.
so sad now.
Yeah,
It's been a long time. Am I really behind the times? Because I know about Warhol, and
Yeah, no.
bless him.
Gary's dead, unfortunately, but he's a wonderful, wonderful photographer. He did some wonderful. He's got that famous photograph in the Bronx Zoo of it's kind of a controversial photograph too, of an interracial couple, and they're carrying a monkey, and it's sort of this white woman with this black gentleman, and they're holding a chimpanzee walking in the zoo, and it's just it's an interesting photograph. So what about flowers? You do a lot of work with flowers too.
I do. That's sort of I got this manly side where I'm like hanging out with monkeys and orangutans, and trying to be all tough, and then I have this side that just is fascinated with the color and the texture in flowers, and both black and white and full color. Going back to what Chrysta was saying, I find them equally fascinating, and it really depends on my mood. So it gives me a chance to stop and slow down. I think we all need to do that, at least those of us who are living in faster paced areas. I just want to lay in the grass and just sit and wait and look for things.
And now, what lens do you normally shoot flowers with mostly?
I'm 100mm macro, the f2.8.
Yeah. Do you have the new one or the old one you're using?
No, I've got the brand new one.
Yeah, that's a nice. I have the old one. I need to upgrade.
Yeah, I've got a nice relationship with Canon, so they take care of me. It's good.
What did they improve with the new one?
I think that it's crisper. I think it's sharper. But not being a real expert, I can't give you the full-on review.
Yeah, we need to talk to Gordon, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. I'm a Canon CPS Platinum guy, and they have a lens program where you can borrow the lenses and whatnot. And I need to borrow that, because I've been thinking I need to get rid of. I've got the first generation, the f2.8, the first one, and I've been thinking I need to get rid of that. But the macro shots with that lens are just so wonderful.
So Alan, your black and white floral stuff, have you always done both, or is the black and white something more recent with the flowers and stuff?
It's definitely more recent. I mean, I've been playing around for a while, but again, I think it's like just a mood kind of thing, and I've been in this black and white phase, and something really different happens for me when I take some of these very colorful images into a black and white place. I start to appreciate the form and the structure, and all the textures come out, and I can play with lights and shadows more, and I think the lighting becomes more important. So.
I always thought I was drawn to flowers because I really am, because of all the bright colors, because I'm really into colors. I love colors so much, but when I look at your black and whites, there's something else there that I'm really drawn to as well, and I can't really put my finger on what it is, but there's still like this amazing beauty there. You know, and so I know that there's something beyond just color that is obviously attracting me.
Right. You know, if anything, for me, they become a little bit more sensual.
Yeah, I can see that.
So
I like how dark all these black and whites are too.
They're very moody.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of Alan's work is dark. A lot of your work, your portraits, your flowers, particularly black and white stuff, is very dark and very rich, high contrast, which I love. I'm a huge fan of that. It's
funny because I followed Alan for the first time because of his Mermaid Parade album.
Yes.
That he has. The color was exactly what drew me into him, which is when I circled him for the first time. So the black and whites were kind of a surprise, but I love them too, but I love his color.
Can you pull up those two, Lotus?
Which one?
The Mermaid Parade.
the early Mermaid Parade stuff, I think it was in the beginning.
Okay, hold on.
And for those of you who have never been to the Mermaid Parade, it's sort of the Brooklyn equivalent of Mardi Gras meets Halloween meets Gay Pride, with a heaping helping of topless, bottomless, crazy people. So it's sort of like Burning Man in Brooklyn.
Wow. So a regular weekend at Chrysta's place then, huh?
What?
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow. So.
You've been here then, Thomas. You've come over?
Oh, I haven't been over, Chrysta. I've heard stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've
There you go.
Stories out there.
Yeah, that's it.
These are great.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, they're just so amazing. The colors.
You know, it's funny because it's a big parade, so there are thousands of photographers and tens of thousands of participants, and you know, I just see all these people shooting very wide and doing their typical stuff. So for this sequence, I just decided I would just do close-up portraiture.
And what lens are you shooting with here? Your 100-2.8 again, or a different?
No, that's the 85-1.2.
Oh, I love that lens. That's nice.
Oh my God, it's a great lens.
I shoot with the one. I shoot close-up portraits like that as well with the 135 f2. Which you can get very close with that.
Also a nice lens.
Yeah.
Now, how colorblind are you? Because I think these colors are great, and I'm wondering like if it's in spite of being colorblind, or if that's like part of it that makes it so interesting.
I'm not really sure. I mean, you know, when I take that test with the dots, and you know, you would see 42, and I see Z. You know, that silly thing. It's red, green, blue, brown. But honestly, in real life, I've never seen it. I mean, you know, I can talk and point to colors, and people who are next to me say, you got it. But there must be something that goes on back here that shifts them for me. But whatever. I like when I'm in my bright, happy mood, I want bright, happy things. And so, you know, portraits like this and just the opportunity that this kind of costuming and makeup provides is great. I mean, that's, you know, if you went to the parade and you looked at the girl that's up on the screen now, I mean, that's what she looked like. Oh, well, and there's another one that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love how red her face is too. You know, that one. I love how it's like just bright red. You know, right there.
Bright red?
I'm joking with Alan. He's colorblind. I'm joking.
Really? Because all these years I thought she was green.
Oh boy, Alan. Who are some of the photographers that inspire you?
I'm a huge fan of David LaChapelle, who I have the pleasure of working with, and Annie Leibovitz, who I also have had the pleasure of working with many times. On Google Plus, you know, there's many people. I think one of the things that as a creative director, which is my day job, one of the things that attracted me to this community was the opportunity to meet new people and see emerging talent. And that's something that I'm really keen on. So people like Danielle Tunstall in London just fascinates me, with her macabre work. And there are just so many people. I hate to mention names because I know I'll be leaving out so many others. So
yeah, that's always.
Let me stick to professionals just for now because they won't get pissed off if I don't, because they're waiting for the next commission from me. So.
Now, how did you get involved with Google Plus?
I think I came in on like day 3 or day 5. I got an invitation from someone, and I was really unhappy with Facebook. To be honest, it just wasn't the right community for me, and it certainly didn't have a focus on creative folks, which is what I was looking for. So I figured I would give Google a chance, and I got to tell you, it's been a crazy, amazing ride. It's been
Facebook has improved their photos, but they were really bad back then. Remember how bad they were? Just the way they looked, they're tiny little.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they didn't care about the creative community. I mean, whether you're a photographer, an illustrator, anyone who wanted to share work, they could care less about it.
Right.
And then some of the other sites, I mean, Flickr, etc., it just became, I don't know, I hate to be stereotypical, but it was like old ladies posting photos of cats. So
yeah.
We needed that.
Well, Dave Cohen does appreciate the creative side, and he works for Google, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love photography, and I love being able to work on a product where I can create these tools to build such a great community. So.
I love that so many of the people on the Google Photos team, Dave, are actually creative types themselves and are interested in photography.
Yeah. I mean, it's an attractive project to work on if you're into that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of cool. We have a good mix too. We have a bunch of people, who have DSLRs and are really into photography, and we have the other side of the spectrum where people use their cell phones a lot, and so it's a good balance. So we keep everybody in mind.
Yeah, well, I think it's great to have creative folks that are working on the product as well, which is terrific. I mean, I don't know. I've never been impressed with Facebook as a place for photography, and I've had my own problems with Flickr, although I'm working on some of those, trying to get along better. But certainly Google Plus, I mean, the photographers, Alan, like yourself, and so many others that have flocked to Google Plus,
yeah,
it's blown me away. I mean, the talent that I've seen here on this site, and the level of passion in this community. Everybody's jumping on board, and everybody, there's a couple of haters out there. You block them, but by and large, everybody is very supportive. They're they're wonderful human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've made friends here that I feel like I'm going to have for the rest of my life and into the hereafter.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way.
Right.
So
I do think there's more opportunity, though. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of fun and games going on now, and so one of the things, the 3 of us are involved in Chrysta's scavenger hunt.
Right.
I think one of the nice things about that is it's sort of giving people goals, and this aspect of competition and competing, I think, is really important because it's stretching people, and there are a few other opportunities. But one of the things that, for me is really important is sort of helping all of the emerging photographers a little bit more. I mean, I happen to be in a position where I see both sides because, as an advertising guy, I commission photographers and I work with clients. As a passionate photographer and as someone who is starting out, part of me is saying, wow, how would I do that? How would I get started if I wanted to? So one of the projects I've got cooking around in the back of my head is sort of this client emerging photographer forum, so that we can bring some big clients who are willing to work with emerging photographers together and do it here, so that people have opportunities that they wouldn't normally do. I think that's really important, and for me, as someone who is responsible for nurturing creative folks, I think that's really important.
That's wonderful. Now talk a little bit about your other side of your life, your day job, the non-photographer.
I'm a global chief creative officer for a very large agency network. And, so my job as a chief creative officer is to be responsible for all the creative directors and art directors and copywriters and filmmakers who are creating commercials and print ads and, global campaigns. So there's a lot of work with creative professionals that goes on every single day, and it's about finding new things and new ways of articulating and presenting stories that, for me, that's just what life's about, is, finding great talent and letting everyone play together and, working to create something we haven't seen before.
It's great that you get to work in such a creative field and then have this other thing going on, which is such a creative passion and pursuit at the same time. Yeah, it's like you're on both sides of it,
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I joke with people because I picked up photography to relieve the stress of the day job. I mean, you can imagine the pressure of dealing with, angry clients who want the next great thing. And so I just picked up a camera and started walking around, and, I was imagining myself homeless, and I met a lot of homeless people. But when I think back now to all of the great photographers that I had the pleasure of working with, I wish I'd paid closer attention to them.
Yeah.
When I was working with Annie, I wish I'd gone over and looked at what the camera was set on and how her lights were set up. I mean, I had this great opportunity and I just blew it. So
sure. Well, maybe you'll get that opportunity again. I think she needs. She's always looking for work, right?
She is. Oh, that's so true.
These days, I think she needs some work. So
yeah.
Well, hey, at this point, we are near the end of the recorded show, so we are going to say goodbye on the recorded show, but don't go away, everybody, because we are going to be right back. Unfortunately, we have to actually end this broadcast and start a new one, because if the YouTube on Hangouts, the live Hangouts, if the video is too long, we cannot trim it later. And then you have to listen to us blabbering on in the pre-show. So what we're going to do, we're going to end the show now, and then we're going to start it right back up. So we'll be right back. Keith will be broadcasting us, and we'll be right back in the chat room. And we're going to take questions.
Everybody needs to refresh Thomas's screen to be ready to rejoin.
Yeah, so everybody go to my stream and refresh it. And with that, Alan, I want to thank you for a wonderful evening tonight and coming on the show and explaining your work. I'm a huge fan, and
yeah, love your work, Alan.
Thanks, guys.
We all do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and with that, we're going to say adios, and we will see you next week, unless you're watching live, and in which case, either continue watching at the Vidcast network, we'll be right back, or in my stream, if you're watching, just refresh and we'll start a new Hangout and you can watch there. So thank you, and good night.
Hey, everybody.
Woo!